Bible Space Time.
Why are there pains in this world if there is God?
As in his book, Why I Am Not a Christian, Bertrand Russell used the pain problem to express his frustration to understand God. It could be one of the most important questions for both Christians and atheists. We don't know why we have to go through painful lives and why we had to be born in this world, and sometimes those pains are too strong for us to show that there is God, but we should not give up our Christian faith, because God knows that we have this problem, and that's why the Bible treats the problem as one of the most important issues.
But it looks like the Bible is not giving us a clear explanation why we had to be born under fallen Adam into this painful world.
Yes. It seems like the Bible is not answering in the way that we could understand clearly, but God is not trying to avoid to answer our questions directly. The way of the Bible presenting the solution for sin and pain problems could be out of our logic of reasoning, and the method that we use to search the solution may not be the right one to understand the mind of God.
To prove the Bible creation, many Christian scientists have been trying to show a regularity of the structure of the universe, such as Fibonacci numbers, as a proof that somebody planned the creation. But the regularity also has been used as one of the evidence for evolutionists to prove the theory. But a recent scientific discovery suggests that the universe might not be built on such regularity. And the story of the creation, written in the book of Genesis, also shows a regularity of the order of creation, not following our logical order. So the Bible is actually using the inexplicable sequence of the creation as the proof of the creation.
What you mean is, God can create something from nothing without any connection between something and nothing. So it is also not necessary for God to use certain law of regularity to create other things. I think our problem is thinking only based on our own limited expectation.
Many atheists are reasoning by comparing God and other things equally, that if God can exist by himself without any cause, then also the universe and the human can also started to exist without any cause, without the need of creation, and they have come to a wrong conclusion that God cannot be mortal as we are not. All these misunderstandings are caused by judging the Word of God from outside of the Bible.
A similar story was recorded in the book of Job. Job said, "You asked, who is this that obscures my plans without knowledge? Surely I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know." Job 42:3.
What you trying to tell me is that, to understand who God is and what God has done, we should not just looking at what has happened in this world, but instead, we need to focus on how God showed himself to us.
We think it is logical to solve a problem based on existing information. For instance, in the following equation, x plus 1 equals 3, x becomes 2 because x is an equal relation with a difference of 1 and 3, but we cannot apply this when we study about God, because there is nothing that equally comparable to God. If a fish defined human as not fish, it could be accepted as logical, so this way of explaining God might look logical and reasonable, but it could never produce a true definition, as understanding human as not fish cannot truly present human as human. Understanding God as not human or something else will not present God as God. God said that brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Would you discredit my justice? Would you condemn me to justify yourself? Do you have an arm like God's, and can your voice thunder like his? Then adorn yourself with glory and splendor, and clothe yourself in honor and majesty. Unleash the fury of your wrath. Look at all who are proud and bring them low. Look at all who are proud and humble them. Crush the wicked where they stand. Bury them all in the dust together. Shroud their faces in the grave. Then I myself will admit to you that your own right hand can save you. Job chapter 40 verse 7 to 14. Through these words, God pointed out the danger of using only human logic to know who God is. If we don't know God, we cannot prove if God is or not. Atheists are not arguing about God, they are just talking about themselves. God is not a complement of man.
As an example, believing that the current condition could measure the past condition accurately is merely our assumption. Let's say a person's monthly income was increased by $1,000 every month, and currently he is earning $10,000. But we cannot use this data to assume that he was earning nothing 10 months ago. So even if the universe didn't start from 0, it doesn't have start from 1, it could be 2 or 200. And if the cause of the Big Bang had been existing before the time of the Big Bang, and the universe does not have to start from 0, then we don't really need the Big Bang to define the expansion of the universe.
So, God does not have to start from 1 to make 100.
No. God does not have to make a small universe first to build a bigger universe. For us, it is not a scientific time order to create the vegetable first and then next a sun, because in our logic, without the sun the vegetation cannot survive, but it is only based on human assumption that God cannot provide proper temperature without external sources of heat. Because our logic cannot go out of limitation of math equation, but God does not need the sun to sustain life, because the source of life is God, not the sun.
That's why science cannot accept Adam as the first human being. If he was the first human, there have to be a time that no human was existing, and then there also have to be a time that the universe was not existing. A time that nothing was existing. But science cannot accept the possibility appearing something from nothing, because it is the creation.
So, the only sure way of knowing about God, learning in God, not from outside of God.
In our knowledge, 1 + 1 always become 2, but in God, it could become several thousand. Just like the story of the 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes recorded in Mark chapter 6. For us it was a miracle, unnatural event for our nature, but for God it was an absolutely normal and natural event. That's why Paul suggested the following answer for our problems of life. Please read the following Bible verses.
Why is it dangerous to approach the words of God using external value system?
Because by attempting to judge God using his own value system, that was how Satan became the evil, and that was also what Satan used to tempt Eve. He tempted Eve to try to evaluate the value of the tree of the knowledge of the good and evil with her own reasoning of doubt. He first threw a question: did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden," to make her to start to doubt if what God said was all truthful. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. Genesis chapter 3 verse 6. She thought it could be a wiser way of gaining wisdom.
The story of Noah clearly shows us that trusting only man-centered wisdom will bring us a destruction. It has never rained until the time of the Noah's flood. So, it was more rational and logical not to believe what Noah was saying. In terms of science of that time, there was no possibility of flood, but Noah trusted the words of God as the foundation of the science, not human reasoning. Eventually the flood came. Noah was correct. Noah's knowledge was more scientific than the science of that times. Noah didn't use external value system to evaluate God's words, but instead, used the Bible-centered value system, the faith, to test and to prove the truthfulness of the words of God. It was the faith of Noah lead him to the knowledge of the truth. Therefore, it is not the knowledge or the science that forms a true faith. Instead, it is the faith that provides the true knowledge and science. The faith comes first.
That's why the Bible said we will become righteous person only by the faith, not by our own wisdom. For since in the wisdom of God the world through its wisdom did not know him, God was pleased through the foolishness of what was preached to save those who believe. Jews demand signs and Greeks look for wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. But to those whom God has called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ the power of God and the wisdom of God. 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verses 21 to 24.
Thank you for watching Bible Space Time.